Hello there, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for one of our weekly webinars. I'm Sam, and I will be moderating this presentation for you. And in just a second, we'll be joined by Wesley Boudreau, one of our financial advisors, and he's going to be covering several topics related to Social Security today. After his presentation, he'll also answer any questions that may have come up throughout his presentation. If you find you have a question while he's speaking, please feel free to enter it in the Q&A box. It's completely anonymous. We try to answer as many as we can, time permitted, of course, and what Wesley does not get to live with you today, we will make sure another advisor addresses with you either through email or phone after the presentation has ended. Throughout the presentation, you may see some links popping up on your screen. These will guide you to several different resources we have available, such as our complimentary cash flow analysis, which is something that Wesley will go more into depth with you about, as well as a link to our calendar to get on one of our advisors' calendar and speak to them directly about your specific concerns or situation. And very quickly, as a final reminder, we are not affiliated nor endorsed whatsoever by any specific company. We are a completely independent group of financial advisors here, so please keep that in mind as you're listening along with Wesley. And without further ado, let's jump right into it with Wesley Boudreau.
All right, thank you very much for the introduction, Samantha. And like she said, we're going to be talking about Social Security today. Before we get into the ins and outs of how Social Security works, the age limits, claiming strategies, benefits, things like that, let's talk a little bit about what's going on and some of the upcoming changes for 2025 and what the cost living adjustments look like going forward here as well. But typically, one of the biggest questions we always see from clients and from prospects is when we start talking about Social Security is, will it be there for me? What do I hear about this shortfall or surplus? Well, if we go back when Social Security was first started, for a lack of a better word, or a lack of a better situation, a lot of people died pretty soon after starting their Social Security payments. Now, over time, obviously, longevity has increased amongst the population, and so that's putting a strain on the system. People are living longer, getting paid out more than what I guess the original expectations would have been. Excuse me. And that earlier lack of longevity has helped us build up a surplus over time. But if you look at this chart here, just within the last couple of years, we've hit that point where that surplus is not enough to cover it. We are actually spending more than we're taking in. So now we're essentially kind of dipping into that piggy bank and using some of those funds in order to cover Social Security expenses. And depending on what report you look at, if we fast forward, this could last until about 2034, 2035 before we run through that surplus. And now we're just simply met with the inflows versus outflows. We might only be able to support about 80% of that or so. So a lot of people do have a concern or a fear of, will I lose Social Security or will I get a reduction? There could be a situation where there might be a means test where they do potentially reduce higher income or those with higher assets. But likely that wouldn't be the case. If we look at the right side of that chart, you can see a bump in the wage cap, which we'll talk about a little bit later, can extend that to 2060. There's other nuances they can change as far as increasing the full retirement age, getting rid of that wage cap, and things of that nature that can actually bring this out to 2090 as well. So there's a lot of different options you can look at there. But I wouldn't be too fearful. I don't think any Congress or administration wants to tackle telling the general public, hey, we're going to reduce Social Security. So they'll do what they need to get that taken care of. Now, looking at historically the cost of living adjustment, the question is, okay, it's going to be there. How much am I getting from that? And how much will I get as an increase each year? If we go back when this was started, prior to 1975, the Congress made the decision of how much to increase it. But since then, it's been tied to the CPI-U, which is a CPI index for urban workers. There's the CPI-U, which is all urban population, the CPI-E, which follows the elderly, which is 60, not, I wouldn't call them elderly, but that's what its terminology is, but 62 and up. And there's also the CPI-U, YOU. What are you actually spending money on? So everything's a little bit different, but they use the CPI-W. And if you look at this, we go back to the 80s, we saw some massive increases, 14% or so in 80, I think 11% or so in 81. We've seen pretty minimal increases, the last decade or so, with the exception of leading into the last couple of years post-pandemic. We saw in 2021, I think it was a 5.7, I believe, or maybe 5.9, I think, 8.7 in 2022, 3.2 last year, and then we're looking at a smaller one this year. We'll talk about in just a moment. So segueing into this year, we're looking at potentially at an increase of 2.5, maybe 2.6%. The official numbers don't come out for another week or so on October 10th, but based upon the numbers, it looks like it's going to be about that 2.5%. Now, keep in mind that 2.5% says, okay, yeah, that's great. It's slowing down. That's a positive issue. It means that things are not as expensive, but that's not reality. It's just things. It just means that things are not growing or getting as expensive as rapidly. So again, if something's gone up in price by 20% the last couple of years and it goes up by another 2.5%, that means it's still getting more expensive. So again, think about that snowball going down the hill, getting bigger and bigger and bigger and compounding. So there are still cost issues to be aware of, but historically, this is a good thing because it is slowing at least at this point. Again, 2.5 versus the 3.2 and the 8.7% from 2022. So some changes we're looking at that the Social Security Administration is bringing on for 2025. One, they always change, and that's going to be the wage cap. I mentioned that before. One of the ways to increase Social Security surplus would be to increase that wage cap or just essentially get rid of the wage cap altogether. And what that means is that's how much you're paying or how much of your income you're getting charged taxes on for Social Security. Now, there's no cap on Medicare, but there is a cap on Social Security. That's moving up to just shy of 175,000 next year. It's about 168 and change this year. But if we go back as recent as 2008, it was around the 102,000 mark. So you can see how much it's come up over time in the last couple years or so. It's far outpacing inflation and the cost of living adjustment. But again, they're doing that because they need to use that in order to help the inflow section. Social Security credits, there's no changes to the credits. It's still 40 credits or 10 years of income. It's just the income minimum has been bumped up. Not a big change. I think it was about 6,900 and change last year. It's probably going to go up to a little bit over 7,000. So just want to make sure you're making at least that amount, which obviously I think most people are, hopefully. It could affect somebody who is just starting out, or maybe somebody who retired, didn't have enough credits, and they're going back and getting some part-time work. So again, be aware of that. And no major changes to the full retirement age, still 67 for those born 1960 and later. We'll take a little bit look a little bit later on what those age bands are. But again, that's another aspect where if they want to potentially push that out farther, that could be another way to minimize some of the cost of Social Security over the long term. So some of the implications of lower cost of living adjustment, the positive side of that is that, excuse me, the negative side of that um, is that just because we're seeing the cost of living adjustment slow down doesn't necessarily mean it's keeping exact pace with inflation. A lot of times things are still getting more expensive, like medical costs and things like that for those of you that are on Social Security. It also means you need to kind of take a look at supplementing that Social Security. It may not may not cover as high of a chunk of your essential expenses as it once did. So again, it means to kind of either focus on, am I going to take assets take withdrawals from other assets? Do I need to tighten the purse strings? We can go through all those with a cash flow analysis, and we update those annually for clients. But it also, for those of you that aren't taking Social Security right now, it means let's focus on that long-term planning. Somebody my age might say, well, let's just pretend Social Security is not going to be there for me. Let me see if I can't do it on my own without. Or somebody who's a little bit older, closer to Social Security, maybe put a little bit less weighting on that and see if you can't bump up your savings. Make sure you at least take advantage of 401k matches, things like that and stuff. But again, this all goes into a long-term plan to make sure you've set aside enough to cover your expenses. Now, some of the recent inflation data, just so we kind of have an update on that, is to show you how it has been slowing. Again, slowing, not coming down, just slowing. Is the consumer price index for both August and July actually reduced a bit, moving up only by about 0.2% each month. The rolling 12-month average is 2.5%. So that's the lowest we've seen since the last 12-month average since February 2021. So again, it is slowing down. It's not reducing or going backwards, but it is slowing down. So that is a benefit there. Another potential benefit of that is how it could affect bond prices, as well as how it could affect pension lump sums if you're lucky enough to have a pension. A lot of the companies we work with do still have pensions, and they do have lump sum conversion options, so there are benefits there. For bond prices, we've been coming off of a long period of time with low inflationary pressure, low interest rates, and not much yield. But the last couple of years, we have moved up and we've increased yield on bonds. So if we start to see the yield come down, that means the price will appreciate and be worth more. So let's assume that somebody maybe bought a bond last year and it paid 7% interest rates, and they went out and somebody wanted to buy a similar bond from the same company even next year, and they would only pay 5%. Well, that person with that 7% coupon is going to get a premium for it. So people will be willing to pay them a higher premium or a higher price for that. So that's a benefit there. On the pension side, think about like a mortgage. When interest rates are low, you can afford a bigger house or get a bigger mortgage. When interest rates are low, your lump sum tends to go up because they use interest rates to calculate out that lump sum factor where they look at your age, interest rates, and longevity to figure out how much they need to pay you for you to essentially recreate that same annuity stream. And so in some cases, we might see, lump sums going up by, 2, 5, maybe 10%. If rates keep dropping, it could go even higher than that. So if you're on the verge of retirement soon and have questions on that, definitely give us a call. We can run through that. That's kind of the bread and butter of what the retirement group does. It helps you with pre-retirement planning, making sure you maximize your benefits from your employer. Now let's kind of get into the real the normal webinar, if you would, on Social Security. So the agenda, we're going to talk about different questions you need to ask yourself as far as how the benefits pay out, when should I claim them, how do I actually start taking Social Security. But to sum it all up, one of the things we tend to see a lot of times is the number one reason that people take it early is I took it because I was eligible. So just because you're eligible doesn't necessarily mean that you need to take it immediately. That's where it's important to run a review. In some cases, a Social Security analysis we can provide, and you can also tie it into a cash flow analysis or a financial plan to see how everything interacts and how it looks not just now, but how it's going to look in 10, 20, 30, maybe even 40 years down the road. So again, it's really important to understand these items. Now, you can take it as early as age 62. In some cases, unfortunately, for disability and stuff, it can be sooner, but for most of us, age 62 is the minimum. Full retirement age is going to be between 66 and 67, depending upon where you were born. We'll show you that in a moment. Or you can defer out till age 70, where you max out your benefits. You can't go beyond that. The Social Security will let you go beyond that and just not pay you, but you want to make sure you claim at least by age 70 to get that going. And as you wait, you get increases, roughly about 8% a year from full retirement age to age 70. And if you take it earlier, you get decreases. We'll show you some different charts as examples in just a moment. So why is it important to understand when to take Social Security? The age in which you take Social Security and claim your benefits can be a long-term effect, a long-term factor, and it could cost you thousands, if not tens of thousands, or maybe $100,000 over the long term. A lot of this is based upon your health, your longevity. If you're married, it's gonna be a double duty. It's gonna be a combination of what your life expectancies may be. You may have a spouse that's the same age. You may have a spouse that didn't work. You may have a spouse that's younger. There's a lot of different strategies in there, but there's not a one size fits all solution. That's why it's important to run a Social Security analysis. We'll run multiple strategies and give you the break even to show you what the best option is and then go through the pros and cons. Even though we may come out and say financially, hey, it makes sense to defer till 70. Even if you feel like you're comfortable with longevity on your side, you may say, well, I'd rather focus on taking it sooner so I can reduce what I'm taking from my other assets. We go through all those different strategies and analysis with you on that. As far as assigning a value to Social Security, it's really important to a lot of individuals. Roughly about 50% of married couples and about 70% of unmarried individuals rely heavily on Social Security. Um, this number here is, I'm not even going to kind of go into it, but it's a little bit outdated probably because where the interest rates used to be. But hypothetically, how much it would take of a nest egg for you to just invest in a 10-year treasury and kind of recoup or get the same long-term benefit somebody may get from Social Security. But the key point is Social Security is a keystone of a lot of our retirement income benefits, and it's really important to be aware of the best claiming strategies for that. So when should you start taking benefits and receiving those? There's a lot of factors to consider. Your full retirement age and your benefits calculation obviously goes into it, number one. The amount of future benefits can also affect your what the amount of future benefits can affect your early or delayed retirement. How that kind of comes into play. We'll talk a little bit later about taxation of that as well. How long you expect retirement to last? So the question is longevity on your side? Do you have parents that made it to their 90s or that are or grandparents that made it that long? Do you have major disease issues in your family where you may want to take it sooner rather than later? And even if you do, it may benefit you to delay because you're looking to focus more on passing on to your spouse and not what your specific income is. Do you plan to continue working? Are there other sources of retirement income that you're looking to pull from in order to grow and defer Social Security? Again, like I said, that full retirement age to age 70, 8% returns, that's a guarantee. It's tough to beat, so you may want to take advantage of that. And then again, like I said before, how your spouse may be affected in this decision. So the question is, when do I claim? Take a look at this kind of busy chart. And again, this is a hypothetical, but somebody who's at their full retirement age, in this case, maybe getting about $2,000 a month for the rest of their life, with cost of living adjustments. If they were to take it earlier, it's going to be a lot less. If they were to take it later and defer, it could be a little bit, it could be quite a bit higher. You can have about $1,000 difference between 62 and 70 in this case. If we look a little bit closer and take a look at when is my full retirement age and what those years mean. Essentially, anybody that was born in 1957 or younger has already hit their full retirement age. But for those of you a little bit later, we're looking at 66 and 8 months, 66 and 10 months. And like I said, 1960 and beyond, we're looking at age 67 and up. Now, that again is one that may potentially change down the road. And as far as the some of the different questions we're going to go through on those benefits is, what's my monthly benefit? Will retirement last? What type of retirement income will you have? How do I actually go through the pros and cons of claiming Social Security and all those different options? We'll go over here in just a moment. Sorry. So the monthly benefit comparison we talked about, we saw that chart before, but in this case, let's assume somebody has benefits, or generally speaking, benefits at age 70 are going to be about 76% more than benefits at age 62. So a pretty big growth gap there. Delaying benefits from age 66, let's say assuming full retirement age, to 70 increases by 32%. Again, that's 8% per year. And starting beneficiaries only 62 versus 66 full retirement age in this example is going to decrease by 25%. So we can see in this case, and I apologize, I can't even see without my glasses. So I think it's about 1350 to about 2375. So about $1,000 jump or difference in this case here as well. So the question everybody says is, how long will retirement last? What's longevity like for me? Again, everybody's unique and different, but longevity has been growing. About 1 in 3 retirees, according to the Social Security Administration, will live to age 90, and 1 in 7 to age 95. So again, be very make sure you are planning that. A lot of times, deferring to age 70, the break even for most of us is going to be in our early 80s. So again, if you think you've got longevity on your side, that's where we get into that financial discussion, and then the emotional discussion, whether you want to wait or and defer or not. So, what if I'm working? How will this affect me? Well, just keep in mind if you're, for the most part, most people, if they're working, are not going to need to or want to collect Social Security. But if you decide to start collecting Social Security at full retirement age and you're still working, there's no issues there. It's if you decide to collect it early. So if you collect at 62 or another age before your full retirement age, what's going to happen is you're going to lose $1 for every $2 you earn over 22,000 and change. And once you get to the year you turn for retirement age, so let's say 66 for most people, it's going to be $1 withheld for every $3 over $59,000 in change. Now, this doesn't go away forever. It gets thrown back into the calculation, so you do get it back, but it's good. You're going to get it back over a long-term period, so it is still lost money. So if you don't need that, it doesn't make sense unless you've got longevity issues to take that early. You want to at least wait till full retirement age if you're working at that point. So a lot of times we're going to see again, like I mentioned, Social Security is one of the three main pillars of of income and retirement. The other ones are going to be 401ks, other savings, potentially pension if you're lucky enough to have that pension income or an annuity through that matter. You may decide to go out and get a job, just for fun because you want something to do, or you may need to supplement your income. Maybe you got some real estate, some rental property income that's generating income there as well. There's a lot of different options, but again, at the end of the day, we can't assume that Social Security is going to cover everything unless you've got very, very low expenses. So kind of piggybacking that low expenses, how much of my Social Security will actually be taxed? For those that do have very low expenses, it may be tax free. What happens is for somebody that let's look at a married couple. Once you get above 32,000 to 44,000, at that point half your Social Security is taxed, and then above that 44,000, 85% of it's taxed. So even if you're making $1 million a year, the max you're getting taxed on there is that 85% of it is being taxed. It's not the tax; it's what percentage of Social Security is getting taxed. So a benefit there. And in some cases, if you're in a state that has an income tax, some states actually don't tax your Social Security. So there are some benefits there as well. But this is definitely something we get involved in when we run Roth conversions to see how it affects the Social Security tax as well. So be very careful on this because a simple change could bump you up into having a large chunk of that Social Security taxed, and it turns out more than what you thought. So the power of delaying, we talked about, the option for an individual, but if we look at a couple, hypothetically, it doesn't matter if this, a husband or a wife, whoever's The higher earning spouse in this case at 62 is getting about 1,700. Spouse two about $1,000. If they deferred all the way out till age 70, we're looking at 3,200 or 3,100 versus 2,000. So you can see that difference of the joint income, 2,700 up to about 5,200. So almost doubling that over time. And again, in this case, there can be multiple strategies where both of them take it early versus both of them take it at full retirement age versus both take it at 70, or it may be that one defers till 70, one takes it early. There's a lot of different strategies to look at, and that's where we get into the Social Security analysis tool to go over with you. So at the end of the day, again, the choice is yours. You know, there's different reasons why you may want to take your benefits earlier versus reasons you may want to delay. Again, a lot of reasons to take it earlier is because you may need it to supplement your income or cover your expenses. You may be a bird in the hand versus two in the bush. You're concerned about Social Security being around. Maybe you take it for investment purposes, so you alleviate pressure on some of your other assets and you turn around and invest that, for instance. Maybe you're taking it early because your spouse is delaying. So different reasons to delay is you may still be working. You're looking at getting those guaranteed income bumps of 8% until 70, for instance. You've got longevity on your side and you're aware of that. Maybe you're planning to make sure you've got a higher amount to pass on to your spouse, assuming you go earlier. There's a lot of different pros and cons and options to focus on. But again, these are things we can work on with you one-on-one in a review as well. So at the end of the day, whenever you need to do this, you can contact the Social Security Administration by giving them a call. You can go log online and set up your account if you haven't done so already. Get copies of your Social Security statement. Look at your past wages. You can run calculations. And you can go in there and actually apply online or by phone or in person if you like standing in long lines. You can do that as well. As far as, ultimately kind of running through this, I've mentioned a couple of times about running a Social Security analysis. That's one piece of it. But at the end of the day, you need to look at a full financial plan or a cash flow analysis to see how every part fits into the scheme. But right now, about three-fourths of Americans over 50 don't even have a written plan. If you can spend about 10 minutes with the retirement group, myself or the other advisors, we can gather some data, give us some time. We can run a detailed plan for you to show you exactly how things stand, how you look now versus 20 or 30 years, and help you back into the best claiming strategy for Social Security and help you make that choice as you get closer to Social Security. And with that, kind of a quick reminder of who the retirement group is. We are an independent financial advisory firm that's focuses working with Fortune 500 companies and many other companies that need help with understanding their benefits. A lot of our advisors work with just a select number of companies, so that way we can be very up to date on your ins and outs of your benefits, whether it be the pension, the 401k, healthcare, retiree medical benefits, life insurance continuation, things like that. And our goal is to help you understand that, so you walk away when you retire and maximize your benefits, give yourself a higher starting point. And our goal is to help you manage those assets throughout the rest of your life and help you build a legacy as well. We do have offices throughout the country, so rest assured we can sit down with you face to face. But if you need to talk via web meetings, phone calls, email communication, that's all available as well. And at the end of the day, that cash flow analysis I've talked about a few times, that is complimentary. So if you haven't done one, give us a call to run one. If it's been over a year, we should probably update one as well, because things have obviously changed over the course of the last couple of years here as well. Now, at the end of the day, if you have any questions, you can give us a call at 800-900-5867. You can reach us at info@theretirementgroup.com. And you can also use some of these QR codes I'll keep on the screen. I saw one question come through, so I'll touch on that in just a moment. But while I do that, these QR codes, one is to get into our appointments if you'd like to schedule an appointment with myself or one of the other advisors, or if you'd like to get into our LinkedIn page to get more updated information on webinars like this, or even specific company information, you can go as detailed as that as well. So I'll wrap this up real quickly, but the one question I did have come through we'll address. But the question is, can I stop my Social Security if I go back to work? So that's a good question. And we do see this from time to time. There are some limitations, but you can stop your Social Security. You can restart it. So I don't know the specifics of this question, but let's pretend somebody, maybe they retired, or they got let go or something like that, or they retired and said, okay, well, I got to start collecting Social Security. I need to get that income. And then maybe they get lucky 2 months later, or 4 or 5 months later, they find a new job, or they decide, hey, I'm bored, I want to go back and work, and I don't need this money. You can do that as long as it's within 12 months. But what you're gonna have to do is pay that back. So let's say you've collected for 5 months, you got to turn around and write a check back to the Social Security for that. So it goes back into your calculation. You don't lose it. It just goes back into your calculation. And then now that you're working and not taking it, that helps kind of increase that deferral roll up in there as well. Also, you can suspend after full retirement age, between full retirement age and 70. You can suspend if you want to get continued growth on there as well. But again, a lot of these are going to be more one-on-one conversations. So just feel free to give us a call. We'll be happy to go through those with you. But great question. And with that, I'll wrap it up. Just a quick reminder, even though I mentioned we didn't go through any specific companies, we do a lot of work with companies that have pension plans and 401ks, and we help you with those reviews. That does not mean we're employed or endorsed by that company, but again, our advisors focus on a select number of companies. So if you get any specific questions, chances are we can dig into those with you, and ultimately we can run a full review to help you determine the best day to retire so you maximize your benefits. With that, I want to thank everybody for joining us, and I hope you have a great day.